Good evening, everyone. If you could take your seats, please, that'd be great. Hi, good evening. My name is Sheil Stucker. I'm with the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the city in Demphead. With me tonight are my colleagues Jonathan Mueller, Patrick Smith, Daniel Lyons, and Alex Feynman. We'll see them around the room. Thank you for taking your times out of your schedules to be here tonight, both in person and virtually. So the camera you see here is virtually all those on WebEx. This camera here will be viewing those at home. They'll be able to see the screen behind me as well as the speakers. So when you're making comments here, you'll come to this where I'm standing, so those at home can see you. Please make sure you note your full name and email address in the WebEx application so that we may accurately attach your name to any comments. For those attending in person, please be sure to add your name, affiliation, and contact information in the attendance sheets, which are at the entrance to the building. Please also see one of our Demphead colleagues if you missed it on the way in. Additionally, I would like to thank the Chevy Chase Presbyterian Church, Councilmember Fruman is here, as well as the ANC commissioners in ANC 34G for their assistance and continued public input related to tonight's hearing. So tonight we are, on behalf of the Executive Office of the Mayor, we are here to obtain community input on potential public uses of the real property to inform the Mayor's determination whether a portion of the real property at 5601 and 5625 Connecticut Avenue, also known as lots 823 in square 1866, is no longer required for public purposes. Please note that any future redevelopment proposals for the property must incorporate a new Chevy Chase neighborhood library as well as a new Chevy Chase community center. When the district intends to dispose of district-owned property for redevelopment pursuant to DC Code 10-801, it must first be declared surplus by the Council of the District of Columbia. As part of the process, the Mayor's office is required to hold a public surplus hearing in order to obtain community input on potential public uses of the real property prior to submitting a surplus resolution to Council. This is the purpose of tonight's hearing. The Mayor then submits a resolution for Council review pursuant to DC Code 10-801. Declaring the property surplus means the property is no longer required for public purposes. Comments received tonight will be recorded and submitted to Council together with the surplus resolution. The Council will review the surplus resolution and conduct a separate public Council hearing before voting to approve or disapprove the surplus resolution. Some site background. Before opening for public comment, we would like to provide a brief background of the site itself. The property is in Ward 3, ANC 34G, SMD 3G05, and is comprised of lot 823 in square 1866. The property is approximately 73,000 square feet and improved with the neighborhood library as well as a community center. The property is bounded by Northampton Street to the north, McKinley to the south, and Connecticut Avenue to the west. Over the last several weeks, I've attended two ANC meetings related to the future of this property, and there were many comments and questions during those hearings or meetings. So I wanted to start today with answering some of those questions for the general public who weren't able to attend those ANC meetings. First, will the Chevy Chase Neighborhood Library and a new Chevy Chase Community Center continue to be owned by the District of Columbia, regardless of whether a portion of the property is considered surplus? The answer is yes. The library and community center will continue to be owned by the District of Columbia. What is the definition of surplus, and what comments would be useful to be received as part of the public surplus hearing? DC Code defines surplus as no longer required for public purposes. In this case, since the Chevy Chase Neighborhood Library and the Chevy Chase Community Center will continue to be owned by the District of Columbia once replaced on site, we are asking for comments related to the unused square footage, for example, the air rights, allowable under zoning. Should the unused square footage be used for public purpose? If so, what's your rationale? If a portion of the property is found to be surplus, then the unused square footage could be available for non-district owned purposes, including the creation of affordable housing by a nonprofit or for-profit developer. Another question, what comments from the public surplus hearing will be made available? All the comments will be made available as part of the surplus resolution when it is submitted to council. What opportunities will the public have to provide public comments on the future redevelopment of the property? And there are many. The first is tonight, by providing comments during the surplus hearing, or providing comments directly to my attention by February the 9th. Second, by responding to the survey that we will shortly provide to the community as requested by the ANC. Third, by providing testimony to the DC Council as part of a surplus resolution hearing. Fourth, by providing comments during any public disposition hearing. Fifth, by providing comments directly to ANC 34G, which will inform any ANC resolution related to the future of the property. Sixth, by providing testimony to the DC Council as part of the disposition resolution hearing. Seventh, DPR, DCPL, DEMPED, and any selected RFP respondent will conduct a series of public engagement opportunities related to the programs and services of the public facilities following any RFP selection. And eighth, the public may continue to provide comments directly to the council and ANC 34G related to the future of the property. Another question, is the decision regarding surplus being decided tonight at the public surplus hearing? The answer is no. When is the decision regarding the public surplus decided? It is decided when the DC Council considers the surplus resolution. As stated, tonight's meeting is to obtain public input on potential public uses of real property to inform the mayor's determination whether the portion of the property is no longer required for public purposes. We will now move to open the meeting for public comments. Given that tonight's public surplus hearing is in person and virtual, we will alternate between in-person and virtual comments. Those of you online who wish to share any comments regarding the proposed designation of the property as surplus, please push the hand icon on the lower right-hand side of the WebEx application. We will call your name and then unmute your microphone so that your comments can be heard. Additionally, online participants can also type their comments in the Q&A function, which is also in the lower right-hand side of the WebEx application, should anyone prefer to submit comments in writing. To note, utilize the Q&A function and not the chat function in WebEx, please. For those attending in person, my DEMPED colleagues will cue individuals to the microphone so that public comments can occur in successive order. Given the number of attendees, each person will have a total of 1 minute and 30 seconds to deliver their comments. If you go beyond 1 minute and 30 seconds, we will ask for a written version of your comments. My colleague Daniel Lyons in the back of the room will be providing both a 30-second, you can see, and a 10-second card up to give you a cue as to the timing of your public testimony. Please focus your comments on potential public uses of the real property. When beginning your remarks, please state your name and any association. For example, if you're an ANC member or resident from a neighborhood surrounding the site, please state this by providing your comments. Please also note this meeting is being recorded and all comments will be submitted to the council with the surplus resolution. Finally, you may also email me written comments at gilles.stucker@dc.gov, spelled GILLES.STUCKER@dc.gov. We will accept written comments until February 9th, 2023. We are now opening the meeting for public comments. Again, thank you for those wishing to provide comments. Please select the hand icon so that I may allow your microphone to be unmuted, and you are sure to your comments will be recorded. If you are providing comments in person tonight, it's public surplus hearing, please clearly state your first and last names and organization you are representing, and kindly spell any words that are not self-evident in your name so they can be appropriately captured. If you have a prepared written statement, please email the statement to me as well, or you can leave it here upon your departure, and we will incorporate it into the surplus resolution. Finally, given the expected number of public comments, if your comment has been previously provided, kindly consider providing your comment in writing so a diversity of comments can be heard tonight during the surplus hearing. It is also important to be respectful of others' time and ability to provide comments. If you are not testifying, kindly keep your voice down so everyone can hear the comments being provided. Our first comment tonight will be from Ward 3, new Ward 3 Councilmember Matthew Fruman. Welcome.
So maybe I'll get the most applause because I want to be super brief to give other people time to register their comments. I will say, watching this process, I expect you have seen and you will see both a combination of real excitement about what might happen in the Civic Corps and a lot of concern. And there is an acute desire by the community to have input and an impact on whatever gets shaped should this proceed. And so I will be looking throughout the process for those places where the community can have meaningful input, including in the formation of the RFP, in the evaluation of any proposals that come in, hopefully in the selection of whoever is chosen should this proceed. But this is a community where it is going to be imperative that they feel that they've been included in the process at every step along the way. And tonight is one of those steps, and I'm going to get out of the way and let them be heard.
No.
What is the order for speaking?
We'll call people up.
How do you put your name on the list to be called out?
There was no list.
All right, so I'm raising my hand.
I'm not finished. Do you mind? Thank you. So we also have some council member, or we also have some commissioners from the ANC who are here. So if any commissioners would like to say, particularly Chair Gore, if you'd like to have any comments, feel free.
Thank you, Gilles. Did I pronounce your name right this time?
Close.
I just want to start out. I'll introduce myself. My name is Lisa Gore. I'm newly elected chair of ANC 34G. I'm a single member district commissioner in 3G01, representing Hawthorne and Barnaby Woods. And I wanted to start out by thanking all of you all for coming out tonight. It is so nice in COVID to come back to an in-person event, and it is so nice to see so many of you guys, you know who you are, that I work with, that I talk to. It really warms my heart. So this is a good thing. Also want to thank DMPED for extending this comment period to the community. I know that was a major issue with our community, and that was one of the things that I wanted to initially work on. To try to get the hearing extended and the comment period extended. So thank you for accommodating our community and doing that for us. Like Councilmember Fruman, who has been very gracious with us with his time in talking about this, the ANC, including Commissioner Gosselin, Commissioner Peter Lynch, who are the chairs, co-chairs of the Zoning, Design, and Development, thank you, Peter, for nodding, committee that's going to be really having a hands-on process in this project to term, has really been working hard to make sure that your needs are met, that we work very closely with DMPED as a partner, and that, like Matt said, that you guys are as engaged, that we make sure that we push the government to engage you all as much as possible. We really want you all to have the facts so that you can make the appropriate decision, whatever that may be. I encourage you guys to stay in touch with the ANC. Definitely give your testimony to DMPED. Feel free to also send it to us at our ANC email address so that we have your views, because the ANC is also going to make a resolution on this issue as well. So it will be very helpful for us to have your testimony if you want to share it. Our email address is 3g@anc.dc.gov. Also, our website, anc3g.org, has a special page dedicated to this topic. We have 2 community groups that have already submitted proposals for us to look at and to consider, so I encourage you to go on our website and look at that information as well. Thank you all for coming, and I really hope we have a great, respectful meeting. Thank you.
So we'll now start our public comments. So I think if you'd like to begin, you may.
Thank you, I appreciate that. My name is Mara Verheyden Hilliard. I am a lifelong resident of the District of Columbia, and in fact, I grew up in this neighborhood. I am a civil rights lawyer, civil rights activist, and I'm here speaking both as a resident and in that capacity because I think the very onset, this whole discussion is really being pushed like a freight train to surplusing. This whole question that's been brought as to the mayor's decision that this should be put forward as potentially surplus property, with this concept that it's no longer required for public purposes. And then any of us who oppose the surplusing, the onus is on us to explain how our public property, which is in constant use, except for the pandemic, is not required for public purposes. This is an absurdity. This is an Alice in Wonderland-like situation. I know there are a lot of people who are coming from the developer interests and the developer lobby and the infill lobby who are going to tell us how great this is. And they're using affordable housing as a fig leaf to push through private profit. The goal right now by the mayor and the effort here is to take our public land and turn it over to private developers for private profit who are all claiming that they are the ones who will create affordable housing. Well, it's the private developers that have caused racist disenfranchisement in the district. It is the private developers that have driven up the cost of living in the district. It is the private developers who have caused the housing crisis, and it is the private developers who will continue it, and they will not solve this problem. So this public property is public property that can remain public. It in fact can be turned into affordable housing, as well as a library, as well as a senior center, as well as a community center in public hands. We have the right to maintain our property. We can use that property. There are proposals that are being put forward that others will talk about that does not require surplusing and selling off. The only thing that the council member spoke longer, I will. Then let me have another moment. The only reason to hand this off, is for private interests. There's a Green New Deal that's coming, and that Green New Deal will allow for social housing. If we give this away now, we won't have the property to turn it into what it can be.
We'll next have a comment from our online participants. So Patrick?
And Andrea Rosen is online. You're unmuted, Miss Andrea Rosen.
Okay. Sorry. Andrea Rosen, I live in Chevy Chase. The overarching goal for my husband and me is that all of the land, continue under public ownership. We therefore oppose surplusing. It is an Alice through the looking glass process that seeks to divest land of indefinite size and location before actual planning has been done. There are public purposes that the community has asked for that the northern reaches of Rock Creek West lack that could be introduced to this quite compact site, like pre-K that includes 3-year-olds and or a senior center. But Ward 3, like the rest of the city, also has a deficit of affordable housing. The mayor has made increasing housing, particularly affordable housing in Rock Creek West, an oft-stated priority. Thus, housing is by definition a public purpose. A modest amount of affordable housing could be accomplished on this public property through entrusting a portion of it to a community land trust or by the district redeveloping it as social housing under the Green New Deal for housing legislation. That the district does not have to pay to acquire the land is a boon to financing affordable housing. Some officials say that the district neither builds housing nor keeps land for housing, but it has in recent years built shelters in all 8 wards and still owns the land beneath. It has also built and kept the land under libraries, schools, and far bigger rec centers than could fit on our postage stamp of a parcel. The overarching goal for us is the land, all of the land, continue under public ownership. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll let them know. Yes, please raise your hand and we will call people around in order. Okay?
By the sign-in sheet?
No, it's not by the sign-in sheet. Because some people who want to provide comments, or some people who do not want to attend and not provide comments, so they want to sign in and listen. So we want to be respectful of people's wishes.
Okay. I was asked to come up here by the microphone. I didn't just come up on my own. He told me to come up. Anyway, my name's Beryl Benderly. I have lived on Patterson Street, 3600 block. of Patterson Street since 1974. My children grew up here. My son, who is a basketball player, and all his friends spent their entire youth on the basketball court in our Civic Corps. There is not 1 inch of that area, in my opinion, that is not for public use. We have the community center, the library, the absolutely essential basketball court, and little kids' playground where the second generation of our family, my grandchildren, play. My son worked at the community center in the day camp for 5 years in the summer under the youth employment program. They used the Civic Corps for the kids to play in. Chevy Chase Day happens there. 30 seconds, voting happens there. The parking is there so that those who can't walk can avail themselves of our facilities. There is not 1 inch of that property that is not for public purpose. Now we have a new one. In addition to basketball, we now have pickleball, which many adults are now taking part in. So I think that the idea that there's any part of that land that is surplus to public use is absurd.
We have a Mary Rouse on the line. I'm unmuting you. Would you please state your name before starting your remarks, please? Mary Rouse, you've been unmuted. We'll be going back to her. Chris O., you have been unmuted. Chris O., would you please state your full name for the record?
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
That's much better now. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Your name, sir.
Okay, so public testimony. My name is Chris Otten. I'm with the district Library Dynamos, Library Renaissance Project, DC for Reasonable Development. I have a keen interest in this because of the future of the library and also our public land, because what happens here is going to set the kind of protocols for what happens with public property generally around the city going forward. The compulsion of DEMPED to seek to surplus and dispose public land and the air rights at the Chevy Chase Corps seems wrong. The process is backwards and broken. Would anybody start the machinations of surplusing or disposing their own personal property before coming up with a vision for how, why, or when a redevelopment and land use change of their property is being considered? Of course not. So then why is the city continuing to do that with our land as they're trying to do here? The solution is a community visioning charrette to define a more refined overall scope of what's to happen at this site. That didn't happen with the small area plan. We didn't get into details of what's going to happen here. And then once we get a vision from the community, we can get into these machinations now. So we're putting the cart way before the horse. And most importantly, we should be talking about writing the RFP transparently. What these deals
seconds.
Usually...
Mr. Otten, 30
Excuse
seconds.
me?
30 seconds remaining. Thank you.
Social housing or community land trusts don't require surplusing. If truly affordable housing is on this site is what the community wants, then the public interest only prevails if a community land trust or social housing model is provided. Neither of those require surplusing of the land. Surplusing is only required for privatization for the so-called trickle-down mixed-income market-driven housing. We don't want that here, as I understand. Also, some land uses don't mix. Putting housing above libraries or other public services is a mistake. We've seen that with the West End Library, which was shut down for almost 2 months. West End Library is a condo unit in a bunch of other condo units.
Well, thank you very much,
And when the plumbing
sir.
issues happened above it, it was shut down for 2 months. So these are certain things that we want to review before going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Judy Leach, and I'm a resident, and I agree with everything everybody said, but I spent today trying to find the definition to the word surplus, because I'm a word person. And the surplus is a piece of property that is no longer suitable or needed for the duties and responsibilities of the government entity. So my question is, how do you say this is surplus? I was looking all day, is there like a strip of land? So now I find out it's not the land, it's the air rights. Well, in that case, is my house above my roof? Is that surplus property? What is the definition of surplus property? What is surplus? What isn't surplus? And how can you come to us with this Alice in Wonderland idea that you're going to give the name surplus to something that is a living, breathing part of our community? This corridor is so attractive to developers that you just keep telling us we can have a bike lane, we can have last night they said, or 2 nights ago, 9 stories. You know, this is our community.
30 seconds remaining.
I would really like somebody to define surplus and how this fits in that.
Thank you. Cheryl Wasserman, you're online. I am unmuting you now. Cheryl Wasserman, you're unmuted. Please state your name before starting your remarks, if possible.
Okay, my name is Cheryl Wasserman. I don't have prepared remarks, but I would say that if this is a community and you hear us, and I agree with everything that's been said, it feels like the theater of the absurd. Every inch of that small parcel is used for public purpose and for building community. Everything from the library, where my children valued reading, to the community center, which we've used, and the parking for the community center and library, and the pickleball court / basketball court, where you can find all ages playing together, using that all the time. None of that is not used for public purpose. Again, the air rights it should be an integrated plan. The idea that you could segment development in any fashion on that property and accommodate the future of our library, community center, and affordable housing without looking at it as a whole is ridiculous. So nothing that's been explained to me makes any sense. It is the cart before the horse. I don't care how the system works. And I think that if we want to go out for competitive bidding on a concept for the whole, why don't we do that and not call for surplusing property right now? Thank you. I yield my time to my neighbors.
I'm Susan Price, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Washington Interfaith Network Ward 3 Affordable Housing Work Group. We are a group led by 5 congregations, including this one, whose combined members number more than 4,800 households. Many of us live in Chevy Chase, and we have a stake in this neighborhood's future, and we see this project as an opportunity both to redress historic wrongs and to build a more vibrant and inclusive future. We're excited that community conversations over the past 2 years concluded that Civic core space, not otherwise needed for government use, should be used to create the first dedicated affordable housing in Chevy Chase. We see this as a once-in-a-generation opportunity, not only to create beautiful new buildings that better meet the needs of our neighborhood today, but also to create space for new residents who have been shut out of this area for the better part of a century. So now to move forward, we need the DC government to determine that it doesn't require space on the site beyond what will be needed for the library and the community center. And we urge the Deputy Mayor's Office and the Office of Planning to act expeditiously to designate this land surplus so that the RFP process, where we can further define what we want from our new Civic core, can begin. And we strongly urge that DC incorporate robust public comment in developing the RFP. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a Kesh Lodowahate on the line. I am unmuting you. Please feel free to correct my pronunciation by introducing yourself prior to your comments.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Keish Laduaheri. I have lived on Van Ness Street for over 30 years, and I visit the Chevy Chase neighborhood very frequently to attend the library, to go to restaurants, to shop, and to watch films. And Chevy Chase is a wonderful neighborhood, but like the rest of Ward 3, it can be much improved to overcome a history of racial discrimination, history that is not in the past but persists given the weight of inherited wealth and laws and policies that favor wealth. The redevelopment of Chevy Chase's reimagined Civic core, and I love that phrase, presents a unique opportunity to right these wrongs. A Civic core, by definition, should be publicly owned. The entire property that is currently owned by the public should remain public and should not be surplus. All the goals of the Chevy Chase Small Area Plan, including the development of affordable housing, can be achieved while retaining full public ownership. And I'm very, very excited at the prospect of maximizing affordable housing in this space, particularly units that are deeply affordable to families at the 30% median family income level and the 50 to 80% MFI. Affordable housing can be developed either as social housing, as envisioned by the Green New Deal for housing legislation, or through a long-term agreement with a community land trust, such as proposed by Northwest Opportunity Partners, CDC.
15 seconds left.
These approaches are the most consistent with the vision and principles of the Chevy Chase Small Area Plan. In the section titled Equitable Housing Strategy Recommendations, recommendation 4.5 calls for leveraging district acquisition funding when properties in the study area come up for sale. Okay. Since we aim to buy land for public purposes, why would we ever want to sell precious public land?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Linda DeBoard. I've lived in the neighborhood for more than 40 years. The library is well used and the community center is well used. Nearly all the parking this afternoon was used. There were people out playing sports. There were kids playing basketball. There were moms with little kids using the outdoor spaces, and there were people sitting quietly on outdoor benches. Not only is the library and the community center well used, it's a safe space. They have story time for toddlers. They have summer reading quests for teenagers. They have afternoon and evening films and discussions. It's a place to get inexpensive books through the Friends of the Public Library. There are computers that are heavily used. Quiet space for all ages. It's used by children after school or on holidays. Tons of educational and fun courses and community space for events. This will be totally disrupted for the sake of I'm not sure what. I've never seen any sort of public work that has been published about pros and cons. I have submitted emails and I've never even had a response. So I think while many people are well-meaning about this, I think it's been very one-sided. So thank you.
We have a Priya Karyappa on the phone. Would you please, you have been unmuted, and please state your name for the record prior to beginning your remarks and correcting my pronunciation. She may have dropped off. All right, we're moving on to E. Nagy, N-A-G-Y. You have been unmuted. Would you please,
thank you.
Would you please say your name?
Yep, thank you. I'm going to take this moment to correct your pronunciation. Sorry, but I think the lady before me was trying to talk and her microphone wasn't working. It is very frustrating to me to...
if you could correct your name, ma'am. Sorry, I apologize.
It's Elizabeth Nagy, N-A-G-Y, and I live in Chevy Chase. I've lived here for almost 30 years, and before that, I lived down near Van Ness. So what I'm finding very frustrating is the idea that it seems that a decision to surplus the land has basically been made. And I find it very frustrating. I've dealt with the district before on issues where the community was opposed to what the district had planned, and we fought and we argued and we presented proposals and arguments and our point of view. And at the end of the day, the district did what it wanted. And I think that's a really bad look for the District of Columbia. I don't understand why this property is even able to be surplused. I had understood that it was given as a land grant for public use and how, for a specific use, and how it can possibly be surplused even legally, I don't even know. The mayor announced that she wanted to put 15,000 residential units downtown, and I don't see anything happening there. You have your hand up, yeah? Sorry, someone has a hand up. The consensus here so far seems to be largely against the proposal. I don't know if the district is hearing that. I'd like for them to hear it. It's like a steamroller, and you can't stop the district once it starts. And I'd love for people really to get together and make a concerted effort to make this project into what the community wants and not what the mayor and private developers want. It's really concerning. Private development seems to be the watchword here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lee Schenecker. I am a retired urban planner and former ANC 3G member and chair. I am a 47-year resident of Chevy Chase, D.C., and now live at Independent Living in Ingleside Rock Creek, about a mile from here. Last April, I testified that the draft small area plan was a good one. I still think it is. However, I also indicated that I had my serious doubts that all of the suggestions for the 1.7 acre site where the community center and library now sit could accommodate all that was envisioned for it. After further careful review, as an experienced professional urban planner, now retired, I am almost positive that the 1.7 acre site will not accommodate all that is planned for it, even with the 8 to 10 story buildings and lot line to lot line construction, or the air rights. Therefore, I would suggest that one of the public facilities be moved elsewhere, either right across Northampton Street or elsewhere in the 4-block area of the Chevy Chase DC small area plan. I will have more to say in my comments in the February 9th deadline. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to go back to Mary Rouse. You have been unmuted. Mary Rouse, you're unmuted. Are you able to speak? Once again, I have unmuted you. Try speaking now. You've just turned on the mute function, Mary Rouse. All right. Priya Karyappa, I'm unmuting you. Would you please speak if you're able?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please introduce yourself and make your comments.
Great. My name is Priya Karyappa. My husband and my son, whom some of you might have seen on the camera before he had to go to bed, we all live on Northampton, literally right next to the land in question. We moved from South Africa here in 2021. We lived in South Africa for 5 years as development professionals, and we survived the world's longest and hardest lockdown. While we lived in Africa, we adopted our son, who was a toddler, so not a baby. And our biggest concern for bringing him here back to the US where he'd never lived was that we could provide him a neighborhood and a community that would welcome him. We chose this neighborhood, even though it was higher than our initial budget, because of the land next to us. My son loves the library. We visit it more than weekly. He made his first friend in America at that library, and they spilled out onto the playground where lots of other kids were playing. He plays soccer, pickleball, tennis, hockey, and rides his bike in the outside areas at all times. We sit in the garden, we admire the flowers, we've seen spectacular butterflies, we've hosted his birthday parties and play dates in all of that open public space. We've attended events hosted by the library or CCCC at the outside area. We've bought books, made puppets, bounced in bouncy houses, and gotten balloon art. Those events all use the outdoor space that is somehow now being called surplus. We watch the diversity of life outside of our windows. People from all walks of life use the outside space at all times. We're often waiting for the courts to clear to play. We've made new friends ourselves playing pickleball. We don't know how the space could be considered surplus. We think the land should stay public so that we can, as a community, decide on the future of the land while also helping others. Personally, the development would significantly block our natural light, remove vital resources from us, allow strangers to stare into our backyard, bathroom windows, and my son's bedroom. It would be detrimental to my family's happiness, and it would endanger my son's stability during a critical time in his own development process. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Mulshine. I'm a volunteer with the Washington Interfaith Network, and I'm very much in favor of making sure that Ward 3 is Ward 3 for all. It's very exciting that affordable housing may become available for teachers and police and shop workers who serve our community, but they have to drive or ride the bus or travel long distances in order to get to work. I think the process, and I was surprised to hear some comments about the process is understandable, as air rights are property to consider for expansion. There are many times when air rights are up for purchase, and I think in this case, the idea of surplusing the air rights in order to provide for and accommodate people who want to move into our community makes sense. My kids I've been in this neighborhood for 30, 40 years, and my kids went to Merch, and one of the mottos of Merch at that time was reach for the best. And it seems to me that this is an opportunity to make sure that Ward 3 is a Ward 3 for all, and that we work to repair the world and not ignore the history of exclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a Paul Rosenbaum. I am unmuting you now. Paul Rosenbaum, please state your name prior to your remarks if possible.
My name's Paul Rosenbaum. I live here in the community. I've seen a lot of change go on over the years. I'm active with DPR because I've run a tennis programs for the community for many years. We even use the basement in the rec center to do indoor tennis when the weather is not good enough to do it outside. And I'm against the surplusing the property to a commercial developer because I don't think they're going to keep our priorities. And it would be great if we could find an organization or create an organization that would do it. We had a very good effort made when the renovation for the community center was up for evaluation, and Randy Speck ran a very good program that got a design, got lots of input from the community, and we presented a new building with a budget, and then the city said they didn't have the money to do it. So we need to find an organization and get the backing of a government agency that will give a community that wants to put in good buildings and control that funding instead of turning it over to a private developer that will probably sell a lot of retail services down on the ground floor. We don't need any more banks in the area. We don't need any real commercial property developed. We just need better housing and keep the public spaces that we have there. I'm
Thank you, sir.
concerned.
That's your time, sir. I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Linda Comas. I live at 3719 Livingston Street on the block that faces Connecticut Avenue. I am a professional landscape architect, a certified planner, and a project manager with almost 40 years of experience, 30 of those in the public sector. I support bringing affordable workforce housing, preferably with multiple bedrooms, to our neighborhood that's inclusive. I am a proponent of smart growth. I supported the small area plan, and I support the protected Connecticut Avenue bike lanes, but I do not support surplusing any of our public property, and I'm totally disenfranchised by the surplusing process. Matt Fruman, please reform this process. It's broken. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to give one last try to Mary Rouse. You've been unmuted. If possible, if you've checked your audio settings, I wish I could be of more assistance. I'm not technology oriented. I'm 55. I apologize, Mary Rouse, we cannot hear you. Brian, you are unmuted. Please state your name, first and last name if possible. You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brian Becker. I live in the ward. I live close to the library. I want to speak against the outlandish effort to use surplusing as a way to sort of go around the community and public reaction to this plan. Air rights are needed for the public so that whatever happens in that area, in that space, can be truly designated for that which the community wants. And one of those priorities would be, of course, affordable housing. The idea that we would give surplus air rights, it sounds like something Elon Musk might have dreamt up, to private developers so that with their great intentions and their great track record in providing affordable housing, that they could do something meaningful for the community. I think it's quite clear from the majority of voices that you're hearing that this community rejects this concept that a perfectly usable and used public property, including the library, where our children and our grandchildren go and have gone, is suddenly surplus, is obviously designed as a way to camouflage the real intent here, which is to seize the public property. This is a seizure, which, let's just call it what it is. It's an attempt to seize public property by designating it as something that is not used when in fact it is. It's not blighted. It's in perfectly good condition. It's completely used. It's not surplus. And this air rights must be retained by the public as well as that which is on the ground. I want to make the case that what we really need—
30 seconds left, sir.
What we really need, I'll take 10 more seconds. What we really need is to take housing out of the hands of private corporate developers who only seek to maximize profits and make housing a human right here in the District of Columbia, and to advocate and embrace social housing. That's the solution.
Good evening.
I am Meg McGuire, Chair of the Northwest Opportunity Partners Community Development Corporation. We are a nonprofit, and our mission is to expand affordable housing and economic opportunities in Northwest DC. How can the DC government possibly consider surplus and disposition of any portion of the publicly owned Chevy Chase Civic Core when there has been no site planning, no determination of the uses to be accommodated on the site, no recommendation from the community about zoning changes, and absolutely no acceptance that these foundational decisions should now be turned over to a private developer? This site deserves so much better. It can be a model of public institutions and public purposed affordable housing, exceptional, sustainable, context-sensitive design for the whole property, community and government collaboration, and a model of using public land for the public good in perpetuity for all time. To achieve this, the Office of Planning should first bring 3 major stakeholders to the table to develop a site plan. The Chevy Chase community, under the leadership of the ANC, the DC government, and the Douglas Community Land Trust. The land, I've only got 10 seconds. I have handouts if you are interested in how this could work. I will be happy to give you that afterwards.
Thank you. We currently have no online hands raised at this time.
Good evening. My name is Gabriella Morris. My husband and I live on Oliver Street in the first house built in this neighborhood. And I'm happy to say we are both Black people. So I want to address some of the comments that have been made that somehow this plan should rest as some sort of reparation for past sins. I reject that. I applaud DC's efforts to build affordable housing across the city. This is just not the right way to do it. I dare say my husband and I are not the only people of color in this neighborhood. So I would ask you to refrain from certain assumptions. There are also assumptions that affordable housing that we're talking about may be for people of color. When I think this gentleman here did talk about middle-class people in our communities who need to live here. So I just wanted to make a pitch that we all know what we're talking about. I would add that I work in global human development. I also sit on the board of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. So I know a little bit about what I'm talking about here. I also want to make a pitch for air rights. We have the right to air. And these assumptions around 8, 10-story buildings change the vernacular and the character of our community. Thank you.
We have an online person. We have an online person. And the gentleman will first go, and then we'll go back to online.
Unless Mary Rouse needs to go again. My name is Peter Lewis. I live at 3901 Jennifer Street for the last 30 years. And I have a prepared statement, but I don't need a prepared statement to say that I haven't and will not support Muriel Bowser for mayor again. I think that one of the fundamental questions here is whether Chevy Chase Library and Community Center site should be a redevelopment, which would add to parking issues and further saturation at Chevy Chase Circle and the roadways surrounding the site, or rather a renovation, which would expand and update the site for less money and less impact on the community. I'm 100% in favor of renovation, 100% against surplusing the property. And as redevelopment efforts in DC under Bowser continues to line the pockets of developers with money under the disguise of facilitation of more affordable housing, that's just wrong. when I look at the amount of carjackings as we approach 500 carjackings, and look at the training centers for these youth that are doing these kind of things and other crimes versus affordable housing, I look at curtailing crime as a lot more important, and that's why a community center should be preserved along with the library. Thanks.
Online participant Alyssa Saunders, would you please state your name and give your remarks?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Alyssa Saunders, and I'm here with my 2 children who are in 1st and 2nd grade. We live on Chevy Chase Parkway, just a couple of blocks from the library and the playground that's being discussed. One of the reasons why we chose to buy a house here was its proximity to the library and the playground.
Closest playground to it. To our house.
As my son is saying, it's the closest playground to our house. We have used it from when they were quite young to the present day. We use the library all the time. I don't see any way that the playground can be preserved with this plan for surplus, so I oppose surplus. I just want to add that I do support affordable housing, but I don't understand why developers wouldn't consider putting that housing on one of the other sites in our neighborhood, such as the vacant commercial sites like the diner, which is an eyesore. And it just seems to me that there are other sites where affordable housing can go in our neighborhood, and that there's absolutely no reason for developers to get rights to the playground and the library. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. My name is Robin Halsband, and I am a member of WIN, Ward 3, so happy to see you guys here tonight. And I'm also have dedicated most of my career to affordable housing finance. I was here tonight to listen. I really wanted to understand the process a bit more, but I'm speaking up because I want to say that one, the good news is that I'm hearing everyone wants to see affordable housing. There was a time where we didn't hear that. So let me just say that is thrilling to hear that is the goal everyone wants here. But I would say that I do think the surplus structure might be the way we can maximize that and get that done the most quickly. I hear you all about the public housing, social housing. I'm surprised to hear so much trust in the city to do that, given DC Housing Authority. Have you all heard what happened there? That is a mess. And as far as public-private partnerships work, there are good developers out there. I hear so many horrible things about developers. In my career, I've worked with some amazing developers, nonprofit and for-profit, and they can do good work. And I'll give the Oyster School as an example of that in Woodley Park. So I just want to say I support whatever structure the city needs to make sure we maximize affordable housing here and get it done as quickly as possible. Oh, and I'll just say, sorry, one thing. We can structure this in a lot of different ways, including ways for long-term leases that still give some public benefit to the land. So I don't want that to go unsaid.
Thank you. We have a Michelle Wolin on the line, and please correct me if I'm incorrect. We can hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're all set.
Oh, great. Okay. my little thing was still through the mic. Okay. As people have already said here, all of this space is needed. People use the playground and the green space and the basketball courts. And I'm very concerned that putting a large amount of housing here, and if we go with a private developer, they are going to try to put in as much housing as possible, and they're going to use the affordability thing to say, oh, we need another floor. If you want more affordable, you got to let us build more. We're going to need scale. I've already heard that being said by Ward 3 Vision. And this is going to interfere with the public use. So, for example, people play pickleball here. Neighbors near the Bethesda Y, where I have played, and neighbors in Arlington have already complained about the noise of pickleball. That plastic ball, it can get loud. In fact, Arlington County is being sued over it. The neighbors want to limit the hours. Secondly, if we build housing, parking is going to become more difficult. We are all assuming a developer will build underground parking, or the people proposing this assume that. It's very expensive. There's no guarantee they will. And even if they do build some underground parking, under DC regulations, you don't have to provide very much at all for the residents. So parking will become a problem. And if we have a new and improved community center, more and more people will want to use it. Where will they park?
15 seconds.
Frankly, I think the space would better be used for a senior center, which is sorely needed in Ward 3, and perhaps a preschool. This needs to be thought of. And secondly, I know we need housing. There is hundreds and hundreds of units already being planned, and OP is just beginning to go up and down Connecticut and Wisconsin. There will be housing built. This is not the best place for it. It should remain completely in public use for the community. Thank you.
So it's 7:30 right now, so if those who want to provide additional comments could raise their hands, be identified, we'll make sure we get to you. Thank you.
I'm Cheryl Tennille from Cleveland Park, and about 30 years there. And I just want to cheer you on. You have no idea what you're in for. We have been struggling for decades with the Office of Planning, with DDOT, and we go to meetings, we go to hearings, we write out the facts. We spend all this time testifying, and we always lose. So I tell you, please know how hard this is. Up in this Office of Planning are these kind of smart guys out of the MIT City Planning Department. And they're big on their diagrams and their data and everything. And we always lose. So we have at the bottom of my street right now a development going on, which we fought for 2 years and lost. And now they're finding, we can see the site is really too small for the construction, and they're having to dig very deep down, and they've got too much water there. They don't know what to do. And now there's a crane whirling around our houses. So please carry on, because you have no idea how really challenging it is to deal with the DC government. They're very good at not listening.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. We have somebody on the line. Carol Spiegel, you've been unmuted.
Hi. I'm feeling so emotional about this. I'm an old Washingtonian. My family's actually been in DC since 1840. And I just want to point out that if we lose the flavor of these, of Woodley Park, of Chevy Chase, of these neighborhoods, we will never get it back. And DC is a city of history, and we are the people's city. And we need to remember that it's a neighborhood for people who grew up here too. And, you know, between the bike lanes and the small plan, which is not small, I kind of resent the fact that they keep calling it a small plan, because it doesn't feel small. It feels like we don't know what they want us to agree to. And it just feels very railroading. And it's very frustrating. And I just want people to understand that we shouldn't, I'm all for diversity and I'm all for affordable housing, but we should not destroy a neighborhood to build another one. That's it. And we don't want surplus. It's a usable neighborhood, and every part of it has been used. It was used by us raising our children, and we want it there for all of the new children coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carol Grunwald.
My husband and I have lived in Chevy Chase, DC for over 30 years. I'm going to speak really fast because I only have 90 seconds here, or 90 minutes, or whatever it is. My family opposes the city's proposal to surplus the property comprising the Chevy Chase Community Center and Library. We strongly oppose any effort to sell, lease, or otherwise transfer any portion of this property to private hands for any purpose. The autocratic, heavy-handed way in which the mayor and the city have imposed their will during their crusade to greatly increase density in Chevy Chase is deeply resented by my family. This increase in density and subsequent development will result in the obliteration of the center of our historic, low-rise, village-style community and render it utterly unrecognizable. We believe it will also render our community unlivable, as plans for infrastructure such as additional schools, mass transportation, and parking have not accompanied plans for upzoning and massive buildings in Chevy Chase. The city proposes to surplus our publicly owned site to make way for an utterly inappropriate, monstrously sized building to house a new community center, library, and as many as 100 households. Meanwhile, more than 1 in 4 of the city's public housing units remain empty. Thousands of downtown offices are sitting empty when they could be converted to apartments and thus revive the downtown economy. The old Boardman Park Hotel in Ward 3 could have been purchased by the city and converted to 100% affordable housing. Friendship Heights, already a high-rise neighborhood with its own metro station, will be adding 350 new apartments soon, and the Listener Home will shortly be adding 93 apartments on its campus. There is no need to gratuitously destroy the historic design of our village center when large amounts of housing are waiting to be converted or built in areas that are already high-rise and near public transportation. On our publicly owned site, there is reasonably only room for these public uses: a new community center, library, outdoor recreation, and open green space, and nothing more. Thank you.
Thank you. We gave the 20 seconds from Wynn's previous underages to you. So Tom Heyer here, you have been unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. My name is Tom Heyer. I live in the neighborhood. I'm a second-generation Washingtonian. My family has been here since 1905. I would like to speak in favor of the proposed surplusing. I will echo a comment made earlier that I would not trust the DC Housing Authority to run or manage anything. And so I think an RFP process to find the best talent to create housing makes a lot of sense. It doesn't mean that it has to go to a private developer. It could go to a land trust. Anybody would be allowed to submit on that RFP. It also doesn't mean that the property has to be sold. It could be leased by the DC government to someone and then eventually come back to the city. I do think that we should require 100% affordable housing for this project. I also think that it's important to have more community input into the RFP. And I also think that the DC agencies who will have operations on this site, the library, the community center, et cetera, need to coordinate both amongst themselves and with the community to make sure that we have a project that is efficient and that serves everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Court. I'm with a nonprofit called Coalition for Smarter Growth, and we're here to express our support for the surplusing of the development and use rights for the Chevy Chase Civic site in order to, quoting the small area plan, redevelop the community center and library into a multi-purpose civic core with state-of-the-art public facilities and mixed income housing. We understand that surplus means the excess space of the public site not needed for renewed public uses of library, community center, civic, and recreational space, which can then be used for much needed affordable mixed income housing. After years of preparing the update to the comprehensive plan, housing equity report, and the Chevy Chase small area plan, we're thrilled to be talking about how we can fulfill these planning efforts by building affordable mixed income homes at the site. We've joined with Ward 3 Vision and Washington Interfaith Network to propose goals for the site. We'd like to elaborate on some of our more detailed recommendations on that. We do think that we should be looking at least 100 mixed income units on the site.
respectful, please.
We, in order to fulfill the housing equity goals of 1,900 affordable units by the year 2025, to turn back to support the district's commitment to turning back racial and economic exclusion and advancing racial equity. We want to ensure that this includes mixed income housing serving households between 30 and 80% of median family income, with favoring the very low income
15
level.
seconds, ma'am.
And we support the current law's requirement that all the affordable housing be affordable in perpetuity. And we recommend a ground lease rather than for sale. And we do urge DEMPED to step up public engagement so that we can better talk about how to program the public spaces and how to inform the RFP. And let me just say, I don't want to end up like the Tenleytown library rebuild, where we lost all the affordable housing. We have a beautiful library and no affordable housing.
Andrew Mack, you've been unmuted.
Thanks. My name is Andrew Mack. I am a father of two. I'm a husband. I'm a neighbor in this neighborhood. I'm a business owner in this neighborhood. I'm 100% against surplusing. I've seen and I've heard no explanation for why this has to happen in this way. I've seen no explanation for why we shouldn't have a plan before embarking on this. I work my butt off so that I can live in this neighborhood, which I love deeply. I've lived here for quite a while now. We raised our children here. We love it in part because it's a low-density neighborhood. I think there's a lot of better ways to go about this. Putting up a 6-story, 7-story, 8-story, 10-story building right on the edge there is going to completely change the character of the neighborhood. We've used the library, we've used the park, we've used all of those facilities over and over the course of time. I'm sitting in here listening to a lot of people who sound like lobbyists, and that's great. I understand their job, but that's not what's good for the neighborhood. Nobody that I've heard speak is against the idea of affordable housing, but let's do it in a smart way, and let's do it in a way that doesn't destroy the neighborhood we've worked so hard to live in. Thanks very much.
Hi, my name is Oana, O-A-N-A. Last name is L-E-A-H-U -A-L-U-A-S. And this is the first time I've ever made a comment in a public hearing. And I just want to say I am supportive of surplusing the air rights for part of this property as long as it's used for affordable housing. I'm okay with any mechanism that already currently exists that wouldn't require any sort of legislative changes that may or may not come. That would get us affordable housing on this property as long as there's green space preserved. Thank you.
We are going, Miss Mary Rouse has her hand raised again. We are going to try, I'm not kidding, we're trying to give everyone an opportunity to speak. You've been unmuted, Mary Rouse. Do you have a smartphone? Do you have any other way of dialing in? There is no audio coming through Mary Rouse if you are speaking.
Did anyone else have the line come up?
Elizabeth Vadden. Elizabeth Vadden, you've been unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay. Hi. I am a resident of this neighborhood, and I have been living here for more than 25 years. I have two sons who have gone to local schools and who were regular users of the Chevy Chase Library and the playground and all of that other good stuff. I believe this is an amazing neighborhood that has so much to offer, and I strongly support this surplusing process because I would like to see more people be able to take advantage of the kinds of things that we here in Chevy Chase take for granted. We are great neighbors, we are really good people, and we are absolutely the kind of neighborhood that can welcome this kind of development, even if it means changes to some of the things that we're used to. As long as it's a process that engages us, I think we can welcome this with open arms, and we can welcome new neighbors
30
in
seconds.
affordable housing with open arms. Just importantly, please include the community in the discussion that creates the RFP process. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who would care to come up to the microphone?
Yes. Yes, please.
Thank you, Andrea McCabe, homeowner here. The discussion went a little further afield about housing all along Connecticut Avenue, and people have opposed a lot of that. The discussion has been, we're a little village and it's wonderful, but tonight I will walk home down Connecticut Avenue past that big strip, desolate strip of the Wells Fargo complex, past the solid red brick facade of the library, the solid red brick facade of the community center, the solid red brick facade of the Safeway. The other side of the street is a bank also. It's desolate. It's not a welcoming little village for pedestrians. In many of the walk-through design tours, a lot of people said they didn't want to come to meetings up in all these various churches because they didn't want to have to walk home alone. So please consider that. Housing along there would bring more people out on the sidewalks, make this a real village. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Mary Rouse on a phone, which we're going to put up to a microphone. We are going to hear from Mary Rouse.
Mary, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much for all your efforts to get me to be able to speak. I appreciate that you all are holding this hearing. I'm a 42-year resident of the neighborhood, and I really am very disturbed that there's an attempt to surplus any part of this public property that's been in public hands since 1896. This community fought very hard in the 40s and 50s to keep this parcel of land in public hands when a number of people wanted to sell it. And it took a lot of testifying before congressional committees and the help of the Evening Star newspaper to actually keep this land in public hands. We may all take it for granted that we've had the community center and library here for years, but it wasn't always the case. And so in honor of the work of people like Sam Higger and others who came long before us, we should really make every effort not to surplus this land. We do not need to surplus it. There's a ton of things that this community needs on this land, including the community center and library. There are people who want a senior center. There are people who are concerned about the need for parking that would help the people that live further out in our community that drive to the avenue. I myself live a block away, so I don't need to, but I think it's very important for the city not to ignore the wishes of the majority of people speaking here tonight. I think it's important to recognize that this community spoke 5 years ago when they said that they wanted the recreation center, the community center, to be improved but not demolished. And I think it would be very smart of our community to build on what's already here. Add a third floor to the library, which can handle it. Build up or out on the community center, but keep the footprint about the same here, because this community supports that. I think if one were to do a survey about what people want here, everybody supports affordable housing. There's nobody who doesn't support it. The question is how to do it and where to do it, and is this piece of land the right spot for it when this community desperately needs to have its public amenities and not wait 8 years like Tenley Library did.
Great.
It took 8 years for that library to be built.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you very much for making the effort to get me.
Here you are. Of course, you're welcome. Oh, sorry, Miss. One person before you. It's all right.
Okay. Hi, my name is Laura Finizzi. I've lived in DC since '99 and Chevy Chase for about the last 15 years. I think this premise of surplusing is deeply flawed, and I focus on two things. One is sort of a zero-sum approach that if we don't surplus, that we won't have affordable housing, at least not quickly. I don't think we need to surplus the site. I think there are other ways we can achieve it, like maybe encouraging homeowners to have affordable units in their homes. I'm currently having someone in my home. She's been unhoused since mid-November, and she's staying with me. It can work informally, and it can work for the good of both of us, right? I also think that we're looking at really a pre-pandemic model of urban planning here, where high-rise buildings are seen as good and vibrant. But during COVID, everything is upended, right? The rules are gone, and they're not coming. This old kind of urban model is not coming back. People don't want iconic skylines. They want to see the sky. They don't want high buildings. They want tall trees. They want to have parks. They want to have playground. They want to have green spaces, because they have to get outside. They don't know when the next pandemic is coming. And all these tall buildings that are office buildings and apartment buildings that are downstairs, they have multiple leases on. Chevy Chase Pavilion is reducing the rents for folks, because they're not going to these tall buildings. They're going to neighborhoods because they can get out, they can play, they can be safer in COVID. And so we need to retain the characters of this neighborhood. We need to find other sites, like we're going to have to find for the approximately 1,800 other apartments that we're going to build. That's not going to be on perfect public land, so we're able to find ones on other apartments also, but not on the public land that is fully utilized, as Mr. Stucker said himself in the November 28th meeting. Thank you.
So we have about 9 minutes left, so we're going to have 3 more online and 3 more in-person comments, and we'll conclude.
Jane Levy, you're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Jane Levy. I live down in the red house at the bottom of the triangle at Chevy Chase Parkway. And I just want to say that the things that they're talking about upending are what are the reasons we moved here, and they're what's best about this neighborhood. We're a model for what other neighborhoods in Washington should also have. And yes, we should have affordable housing. Of course we should. But to change the fundamental character of the strip along Connecticut Avenue by adding a tall building right by Chevy Chase Circle. I mean, is anybody talking about what the traffic nightmare is going to be like during construction? Because it's not going to take 2 years. Anybody who's renovated a bathroom knows how long things take. I think it's a safety issue. I think there are other, for God's sake, surplus the Neiman Marcus building, for God's sake. I mean, why not take some of the empty office buildings and use them? And there's lots of room to, make good apartments for people, and they do deserve them and should have them, but not at the cost of changing the fundamental character of our neighborhood. I oppose the surplusing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marie Hoffman. I'm a long-term resident here. I've been here since the early 70s. I am hearing something that has a tinge of some old history that I just want to remind us that our neighborhood here was not created without a previous history of exclusion, of wanting to keep things a certain way. I don't know exactly where I'm going to go with this, but I do want to voice a caution in trying to keep things as they are now, which sounds a lot like people who bought into the land and the community created by the Chevy Chase Land Company. And that is not who we are. I think we don't define ourselves like that, but I do think that people would like to keep things as they are without allowing for some important changes and some repair to the exclusion that was created.
Thank you. There's an Ann W. Hawkins on the line. You have been unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. I'll be very brief. I remember a discussion on the listserv about 2 years ago, maybe, that the sewer system that we have can't cope with a lot more volume. And I'm wondering what will happen if they have to dig it all up and replace it, what it's going to be like for the people who are in the existing apartment buildings along Connecticut Avenue to live with the noise of construction and the changes that we're talking about. And most of all, if I shouldn't say if, people of low income would be so much better served to be at Friendship Heights, which has the metro stop and plenty of bus service, so they won't have to own a car to get where they need to go. And I think that Friendship Heights was a mistake to begin with, but it was proved by the COVID, and now it's a ghost town. And a lot of those buildings, especially the hotel, are prepared to house people. So why continue on this project, which was conceived before we had Friendship Heights collapse, and use Friendship Heights? It would really serve people who need a good place with good transportation. So that's my basic. Thanks.
Am I last?
Nope, second to last.
Oh, good. I don't like to be last. My name is Ronald Kahn. I live on Livingston Street near Connecticut Avenue. I'm a retired program manager. I've managed an IZ condo as a treasurer for a number of years. I know all about these programs and have detailed knowledge of how they work. I want to ask a question. First, I'm saying that we don't seem to trust anybody. It's just the dilemma that I think we've got to still work through, so we're not near answers to questions. As part of the 10-801 process, got a question. Our community should ask Dumphead, am I pronouncing it wrong? Dumphead. Okay, I'm sorry. To share their rationale, okay, for declaring or not declaring the property as surplus. We want your reason why we're going through this process. I don't know if we've heard it in detail. So that would be something to ask instead of us guess. Okay. As a program manager, I'm more about how versus what. Okay. So that's how I'm speaking a little bit. On the portion of the land, the new Green Deal appears to me as a very good process to take a look at and use.
30 seconds, sir.
This can address our collective wants and needs specific to affordable housing. Okay. Furthermore, using our creative powers, perhaps a combined community and library center using and keeping the green space can be visioned and built. In other words, can we build a combined library and community center in one building? That may give us an ability to be creative in using the space a little better, maybe. As a lessons learned, I want to go over the lack of community input, centralization of government power, and developer undue influence remain as systemic problems. They undermine the essence of the planning
15
process.
seconds, sir.
I urge everyone to understand if these trends do not change, the 2025 process will be far worse and disastrous to our community.
Thank you.
I also want to call
Sir,
out and
thank you.
thank our ANC and residents for their contributing efforts as we go forward with this effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Online, we have an RG. Would you please state your name for the record and give your comments? You're unmuted. RG? It's showing as a smartphone, smarter than I am. RG going once. RG going twice. Do we have anyone else from the floor?
My name is Ellen McCarthy. I'm a 34-year resident 2 blocks from here. As a member of the Citizens Advisory Committee for the Chevy Chase Small Area Plan, I totally support the recommendations of that plan that the site be redeveloped with a new modern library and community center with well-designed open space and with the excess development rights not required for government facilities. That's what surplusing means, not no public purpose, just not government facilities. That anything not required for government facilities should be available for affordable housing. No redevelopment of this site can proceed until the council officially declares that other than the library and community center, there are no other government facilities required for the site. Only then can the deputy mayor call for competitive bids to choose the best proposal for redevelopment based on an RFP that Mr. Stucker has already told you will be based on community input about what we want to see on the rest of the site.
30 seconds.
This is just surplusing. It's not a design process. That's zoning, and that's the RFP process. I urged IMPED to undertake special efforts to solicit community input, and I urge them, as I believe they've already indicated, to keep the property owned by the district government and simply use a ground lease so they have control over whatever the private developer develops on the site. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It's 8 o'clock now, so we've had robust comments from everyone. Thank you for attending. Thank you again to the church for hosting tonight. It's a wonderful site to have this space. Thank you very much. And we look forward to future community engagement. Good night. The question was how many folks watched online?
The highest was 120 people online at one time.
120 people online.